Matterhorn is a roller coaster unique to Disneyland, California. This coaster was the first ever steel tubular coaster to ever be built on the planet and literally set the course of history for roller coasters. As much influence as this coaster has had on the world, is it any fun to ride? In today's video, we will be answering just this question and ranking and reviewing this influential coaster as one of the first steel coasters in the world. Also, the video title is inaccurate. I know, it's okay. Montaña Suiza does not exist. Before we start the video, I would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. It means a lot more than you think and will help a small channel like us grow. I would like to talk about the theming before I even start talking about the ride because it's so immediate and apparent. As soon as you walk down Main Street and into the main area, I don't know what it's called, you can see the Matterhorn looming over Cinderella's castle. This is I think it's perfect, but it's a 1:100 scale of the actual Matterhorn in Switzerland. This mountain was made when the coaster was made in 1959, and you could tell the technology wasn't there yet. It still looks like an amazing feat and is eye candy to the average viewer. There's a lack of depth and complexity in the mountain though, and you could tell it looks fake, opposed to something like Big Thunder Mountain where you can ask, is this rock even real? The mountain looks 2D at times and just does not look like real rocks. The snow has no texture and it's just white painted on the top. Nevertheless, I'm not hating. The technology to even place a roller coaster inside a mountain in 1959 is crazy, but Walt Disney did just that. I just hope it gets revamped in the near future, another very important thing I'll talk about later in the video. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the queue line as I did with other Disney coasters because this one is lacking. And I'm not going to psych you out like I did with Space Mountain. Anyways, the queue wraps around the entirety of the mountain, and when you're approaching the station, you can watch the trains hit the final brake run, and it can build up some hype or build some anticipation for the ride, but this is a family coaster, there's nothing to be afraid of, right? Well, I used to be scared of this coaster for the longest time, but I'll get into that later in the video. Once you get to the physical station and into the switchbacks, it's really nothing special. I would find this type of queue line at Six Flags or a Cedar Fair park. Like I said, it's nothing cool. However, they do have some queue line music that I actually enjoy a little, mainly for its nostalgia, but it has a Swedish theme song with some yodelers, and it always puts me in the mood to ride this ride. When you're up to the station, you'll notice the trains. These trains, they call them sleds, I think. They have 2 cars of 3 rows of 1 for a total of 6 riders. Okay, that was a little confusing, but basically it seats 6 riders in a straight line, one behind each other. This is to give the effect that you are sitting in a bobsled. After all, this ride is called Matterhorn bobsleds. The front row and back row are much smaller, and to be honest, for ride experience, I do not notice a difference at all, and I'll get into that a little later in the video. There's a decent amount of much needed padding, but not enough to start the horrors from happening. This coaster is rough. Very, very rough. You can already tell this from the queue line when the brakes kick in and everyone sitting in the car gets jerked forward. If you've been to Disney, you know what I'm talking about. And when they go to check the restraints, you'll notice this yourself. Once you're all done with the pre-ride checks, you head up a dark chain lift through the middle of the mountain. There's glowing ice on each side of the lift, and you can hear and sometimes see the Yeti and his roars. This brings you all the way up to the highest point of the ride, which is only like halfway up the actual mountain, before dropping you down. I'm not going to explain the layout too much, it's just a whole bunch of turns and more turns and more turns, very similar to Space Mountain's layout, but it's so much worse. Like I said, this coaster is rough. It's not headache-inducing rough, it's back pain-inducing rough. Seriously. Who would have thought that the oldest steel tubular coaster in the world would get rough? I did, and it is. The padding is not enough to save you from the horror of this ride. The janky transitions just throw your whole body side to side, and the profiling is just, no, I don't want to talk about it. Nevertheless, as you traverse or wind your way down the mountain, there are a couple confrontations with the Yeti. This element is used to scare me so much. Imagine riding a roller coaster and as you turn a corner, a massive Yeti is roaring in your face. Okay, that's a little exaggerated. Nowadays, the Yeti affecting whatever you want to call it does not scare me at all, but it may come as a surprise to the unsuspecting viewer. Once you finish the coaster layout, there's a small splashdown element, which is my personal favorite part of the ride, besides getting off of it. I've talked to a lot of people about this ride, and generally they seem to enjoy it, and I kind of do. It's just a little janky and rough for my liking. And it's not rattly or headbanging, it just tosses you around like a plastic bag falling through the wind. Is that the Katy Perry lyric? I just looked it up, it's not. Whatever. Anyways, this is why I have zero seat preference when riding this ride. Every seat bangs you up, and it all feels too similar to me. Theoretically, the back would be rougher because you have more whip going around, but a 2-car train does not create that extra oomph, and I just don't think that's the case. The front and back seats are a little smaller though, so I would go for a middle one if I had the choice. Again, it probably does not matter unless you're a bigger person. An important thing to mention, and I don't even know if I have mentioned it already, is there are 2 tracks in this coaster Duels, kind of. The tracks follow similar layouts that diverge off each other occasionally. However, the 2 sides offer complete different experiences, which is also the reason why it does not duel. The Tomorrowland side has less speed, tighter turns, and bigger drops, if you even call them drops, and ends up being a whopping 20 seconds faster than the Fantasyland side, that has less speed, longer, and drawn out turns. This is the reason this coaster does not duel. Each track does not pace through the layout the same way as the other, and many of you from hearing this would think I would like the faster, tighter, shorter side more because of the added intensity, if you even want to call that, of course. Well, you're wrong. It's noticeably more rougher when you're going through the layout at a higher speed, and I prefer the less rough ride experience. Then again, I question if I like the faster side better so I can get off the ride sooner. That was a joke. There's no hate to Matterhorn. I always ride this when I go. It's a certified Disney classic. Nevertheless, this coaster is in badly need of refurbishment and a retrack. The mountain could be fixed well with newer technology and a higher budget, though I don't think it's ever going to happen. A retrack though, I think would be crazy. I feel like a lot of speed is lost during this ride just due to bad profiling and janky transitions. If you remove this and have half decent profiling, I think you would fly through the layout and trims would be needed to diminish the experience, otherwise you'll snap someone's neck off. Then again, it would be sad to see the first ever steel coaster be gone like this, but again, it's in really bad need of a retrack, and I'm in favor for this. Overall, to summarize the experience, Matterhorn is a relic of the past and a true pioneer in the world of coasters. It has grown really, do I need to say it again, really rough over the years, and it's quite painful to ride if you ask me. Nevertheless, the theming of the actual mountain is quite cool when you look past the lack of depth, and the Yeti moments can catch you quite off guard if you were not expecting it. The operations, which I forgot to mention until now, are incredibly good for trains that hold 6 people. This coaster is not on the same tier as other Disney coasters, yet it remains a classic due to its long history. For a final score out of 10, I'm going to give Matterhorn bobsleds located at Disneyland a 6 out of 10. That's it for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.